This video is a follow-up video to the review I did of the Yong Heng compressor about 8 months ago. And all I really want to do is kind of just let you know how it's been running, how's the longevity, have I had any issues, anything new I learned, and to kind of just, I'll break down the molecular sieve, water in the tanks, anything I can remember that is important, and hopefully this will be brief and hopefully it helps you possible. So let me start off by first saying, one, I am not paid by anybody to push the Yong Heng compressor. I purchased this on a chance. I did watch other videos and they said it was pretty good, and bottom line is I do agree. This is a pretty damn good compressor for the price. Are there better compressors? Yes. There's the Air Venturi, there's the Hatson, there's some British ones that are really, really good. But again, do you want to spend $12, $15, $3,000 on a compressor for an air gun that depends. If you can afford it, great. This has been working fine for me, and I'm here to tell you what I've learned, how well it works, and issues, questions, things that have come up from my other videos that people have asked. So no, I'm not paid except for what comes from YouTube advertising. So that being said, let me start off by first telling you about the setup. Really quickly, bucket of water, a hose that sends water in and out back into the bucket. I use a block of ice that I keep in the freezer for small container, plastic container. It lasts quite a while and it keeps this thing running very cool. I do not have circulating water. If you have circulating water like a sink or something, great, use that. I use a bucket. I do this in my garage. It's the quickest, safest place to do it. This thing does stink a little bit, but it works very well and I've had no issues. Okay, well, when I say no issues, the only issue I've had, and you've seen this from my other video, is that the power relay burned on me, and I did replace it with one I got on Amazon. This is the auto-shutoff version. It no longer auto-shutoffs, shuts off automatically because I put a different power relay in there. I don't care. I like it that way. I actually prefer to shut it off myself. This is a proper one. I purchased this one on AliExpress. By the way, I've had a question about parts. You can find parts everywhere for this Yong Heng. For everything from the cover, the O-rings, metal part, everything can be replaced, and it's awesome. So here I purchased it. It was 16 bucks delivered. I have it here just in case this one burns. I have a backup, and this one will be the auto shutoff because it comes already ready to be wired and just replaced. So that's that. So this was the auto shutoff version. It no longer is. I like it better, and I'll talk to you about why I like it better. But before I do that, you have the hose that has a cotton like this, a cotton, tube that goes right in there, okay? And that collects dirt and a little bit of water. It's not really meant to be a water collector. It's dirt and oil, okay? That goes up to a bleed valve. This is something I made myself, and I did this because talking to a lot of people about the molecular sieve, there's a certain way to do it, and I will take this apart to show you, but for now let me show you what this piece is here between, and let me take this off. So between this quick disconnect and here, let me take this off, okay? So between the molecular sieve, that is this piece. This is a bleed valve that I made that just connects to the molecular sieve, and this is a Yong Heng, this is from AliExpress. This was a $70 item. You can see this in my other video, and this connects there. This valve system is composed of 7 parts. There is a 1/8 BSPP to an NPT increaser. It goes to 1/4 inch. This is a 1/4 inch NPT bleed valve. Everything here is 5,000 PSI or greater. I can't stress enough how important it is. Make sure you're using 4,500, 5,000 working pressure on all your components. Don't compromise anything. Up here on this, everything here is 5,000 or better. You don't want to have any accidents. So again, 1/8 BSPP to 1/4 NPT. There's a 1/4 NPT valve. This is a reducer, 1/8, 1/4 to 1/8. This is a union, and then you have your 1/8 quick disconnect. Okay, so that is this piece right here. This is okay. Connects to. There's another quick disconnect right here. Okay, that is part of the molecular sieve here, or the water separator. I have a quick disconnect, which you can see in my other video. I have details on what's made. It's a CGA 347 with a bleed valve. So, something I want to let you know. Back to how I run this. I run this, why this thing has lasted so long and has done so well. I have not even had to change the rings in the piston yet. I run this short periods of time, 20 to 40 minutes, only to top off the tanks, and I run them very cold. That's that block of ice that I talk about that's in here. And because of that, this system has worked flawlessly for 10 months, at least once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week I run this thing, okay? And I've had no problems. Order of operation, how I run this system so that I ensure longevity, safety, and that it's running smoothly. When it's time to shut down the system, what you'll do is, now remember we have our one-way valve here, so we can open it up here. First, open the bleed valves while it's still running, then shut it down, so air will come rushing out, and what'll happen is this will all empty out pretty much slowly, and then you can open this valve here as well, but you will already have taken out water from here earlier. And that's pretty much how you keep this system running well without putting too much resistance on the piston. So when you, again, just to recap, when you start it up, keep them open, turn it on, it runs, you close them, and then on the reverse, when you're ready to shut down, first open up the valves, let them bleed out while the piston is running, then shut it down. This brings me to why I like not having an auto shut-off feature. Now, if your system, if you have the auto shut-off version and your system shuts off automatically while there's still pressure in the line or in the piston, you're putting a lot of stress on the crank arm, on the piston itself. So it's sort of self-defeating to have the auto shut-off is great, I guess, if you're not paying attention or you just want it to shut off, but you're putting a lot of undue stress on the crank arm and the piston when it shuts off. So by bleeding first and then shutting off, you're kind of ensuring that, you know, the piston won't have that kind of resistance against it, and it should last a little longer. So again, that's why I like not having the auto shut-off feature. Now, if I want to put it back, I can just put back the correct power relay, and this will be a auto shut-off feature. Now, unless someone knows why the auto shut-off feature could be great, even though it might put undue pressure or stress on the piston or the crank arm, let me know, post it. And listen, I'm learning just like you guys are. That brings me to the next point or topic. I'm going to talk to you about the molecular sieve, but before I do that, I want to talk to you about the tanks. There's been a lot of question as to getting water in your tanks. You know, I have people who are overly fanatical about safety, and then I have people on the other end who are telling me I'm nuts because I'm doing too much safety. Well, the bottom line is, look, you have one life, don't mess it up. A mistake here could kill you. So I was worried about water in my tank. I had my tanks inspected by my local scuba shop, took the cover, he took the air out, he took it out slowly so as not to get condensation, because when you pull the air out fast, you get condensation. Then he took the valve up. There's no water in my tanks. The only thing that he found was a smell of the oil, and that happens because my air does smell like oil vapor a little bit, and that's probably the hydraulic oil that we use inside the compressor here. Some of it leaks out somehow, it gets there. But he said otherwise, there's no, aluminum doesn't rust. Aluminum oxidizes and turns black. He He didn't find any of that in there as well. So my tanks are in great shape. Great to hear that. This is working well. And by the way, I've been filling it even without this. In the beginning, I didn't have this molecular sieve. This is new. So now I got this added protection. And by the way, this is all very inexpensive. Like I said, about $300, $400 for the pump, maybe $30 for this little valve piece here, $70 for the molecular sieve, maybe 20 bucks for the actual internal component. I'll show you how that's made next. Another 50 bucks for this quick disconnect, you know, the CGA 347. So it's a really inexpensive system that's working very, very well. All right, so the next thing I want to talk to you about is what's inside of this molecular sieve, the hack. This Tuxting Alibaba water separator, how I hacked it. It comes with a cotton swab only, like that, like this little white one here. It's just a lot bigger, and it fills the whole tube here. Now, the bottom line is that cotton tube is not really, I mean, you can use it. I used it in the beginning, but I went over and I figured I'll do it right, and I want you guys to do it right. So I'll show you how I hacked this Tuxting. And by the way, I learned this from somebody on the GTA Gateway to Airguns forum. It's not that I'm a genius, because I'm not even close to that, but I saw what he did. I just copied him. Let me show you what's inside. So let's remove first the valve. Whoops. Let's remove, this is the valve. Okay, put that to the side. This is just a tube with a fill whip. That's all it is. All right, so let's use a strap wrench. Tighten that down. Let's use an adjustable wrench here, a big one. And let's loosen this. Oh boy. Here we go. All right, we've loosened it. And here I'm going to show you what is inside. Thread with an O-ring. Now inside here, you know what? I'm going to put another camera. Set up another camera. He's killing me. All right, so there is, let's see if that's focused, an O-ring. Here we go. So you can see it. It's very simple. There's an O-ring that fits on the top, okay, and that meets flush with this cap, okay. Then there is a PVC tube with another O-ring on the end. Kara, what's up? Inside at the bottom. So okay. This is made with 1-inch PVC, as you can see here. 2 O-rings at either end, cotton on either end, and let me show you what these look like. I'll pull these out, and then just so you have an idea, the cotton goes in about 2 inches on either side, okay? And then in between is molecular sieve. This was purchased on Amazon, okay? Let's see, maybe you can see it. So this was purchased on Amazon, 20 bucks. Or maybe even less, 17 bucks. Sorbent media. I don't know what size it is. I just know that here there are little balls about BB size. I would say these are about 1/7 an inch, maybe a little less, maybe 1/5 an inch. If you see that, there you go. And this stuff is supposed to be better than desiccant, or I mean, I guess you can use desiccant too, but I'm using this because I was told that this is a better way to absorb water. Okay, so let me show you what's inside this 1-inch tube. All right. So I'm using a pair of tweezers to move. There we go. So now you can hear it's loose. It's important to pack your desiccant, okay, very tightly in this tube. Otherwise it won't work. So let me show you what it looks like. Here it is. I'm pulling the tube out. Oh, there it goes. So actually it's only about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. And as you can see, I've packed it so tight that they've embedded into the cotton here. Okay? So inside there is your desiccant, nice and loose. Okay? Now, when I pack it tight. So again, I'm going to make sure every single piece, it's all dry, looks good. So again, there's just this piece of cotton on one side. I'm just going to pinch here. Let me show you. I am just going to pinch it, fill it in. I've packed it down. Okay, nice and tight. It shouldn't move. If it moves, it's not working. So what you have to do is keep, see, I can tell that, so if you look here, the fact that it's opened up now, here, let me show you. The fact that there's a little space there, it's too much, it's more than the O-ring, tells me it's not packed properly. So what I'm going to do is keep vibrating and pressing. So what you want to do is keep pressing and shaking until they all fall into place. And then when you don't hear any more movement, you know they're packed tight. So once you've gotten it packed tightly, now you know air cannot squeeze between the spaces of the molecular sieve, and it allows the molecular sieve to work correctly. So again, this is a 1-inch piece of PVC with about 2 inches of cotton on either end and desiccant in between, as well as 2 O-rings on either end that fit nice and snug, and then these go inside the tube. So what you're going to have to do, you have 2 caps. Now I'm not removing this one just because it's nice and snug down and I don't want to lose it, but you have 2 caps just like this, okay? And what you're going to have to measure is the distance. If you look here, right, you'll have an O-ring on either end. So an O-ring on either end and a cap on either end. All right? And they're going to seal like this. So let's see if you see that right there. This here. Okay. So what you're going to have is the cap, the O-ring, the PVC, and then another cap on the other end. So what you'll have to measure is the PVC from end to end, the inside space, okay, between the end of the cap here and the end of the cap here, and then make it just about 1/8 smaller, because you want to be able to use 2 O-rings to cap it, all right? And then you'll slide it in, okay, as I just did. Put your O-ring in, okay, now you know it's flush. Whoops, we lost that O-ring. Okay, put the O-ring in. So put the O-ring in, and then you're going to seal this down. And it should be really, tight, somewhat tight. And that's pretty much it. Now, I've had someone ask me, well, if there's 4,500 pounds of pressure in there, isn't the PVC going to explode or break? Well, remember, the PVC is really right up against the wall, the aluminum wall of this tube. So yeah, it's going to expand a little bit, but it's not going anywhere. The tube is holding the PVC from expanding out. So you have the cap, the O-ring pressing against the cap and the PVC, and then in between that is the cotton and all the desiccant, and then the same thing on the other end. So it's a really nice system. It seems to work well. I'm not having any problem. And remember, you want to keep it, the flow, you want the water to accumulate on the bottom, and then you'll use your valve, your bleed valve. Now, is this the best way to do it? No. This is, you really would like to have the bleed valve right here instead of below. But listen, this is a hack. It's working well. I don't recommend drilling unless you know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm not going to drill into this to put a bleed valve here. So I have it here. The water still accumulates. Some of it might pass out and go down into the, you know, might pass out and go into this part here, but that's okay. So as long as I'm capturing the water in here and I'm bleeding it here, so I'm bleeding it on the bleed valve of the Yong Heng, and then I'm bleeding it here. So I'm not going to get any water in this system. A few more things I just want to clear up from my first video where I was a little more naive and didn't understand how these tanks were made. And one of the things I said was you can take the tank, turn it upside down, and bleed the water out. Well, for these SCBA tanks, that's not true. There is, and again, I didn't know this, there is probably a 3 or 4 inch pipe, thin pipe, that when you, remember, firemen carry this on their back upside down, okay? This is breathing air. So if there were water in there, they would choke on it. And this I learned from my scuba shop guy. He has a very extensive system, dry air. And one of the things he said, well, you know what? You weren't that far off. So he wanted to show me, he smelled oil in my tank before he inspected it. And what he did was he took a white cloth, he has some kind of cotton cloth, he put it in front and he opened it up just a little, and he thought he would capture some of the oil. And it was clean. So he said, the vapor is not that bad. When I take it apart, I'll take a look. The walls are probably slick. He didn't think he would find any water because it would have come right away. He would have seen it. But the bottom line is, no, you cannot turn upside down to release the water. I didn't know that. Another thing, when you fill with these Yong Heng compressors, my scuba shop will no longer fill my tank unless it's cleaned. Because even though he has check valves on his system, he's afraid that one of his guys might make a mistake and allow this to back into his system. And if that were to happen, he would not be able to fill breathing air. So once you use these Yong Heng compressors, or any, I guess, compressor that leaks a little oil or gets that smell of oil, like I've gotten on all my tanks from this, most scuba shops, as he told me, will not fill this. Even though they have check valves, they don't want to take a chance of having that back in. So that's another concern. He did also tell me about extended life on these SCBA tanks. Remember, these are not scuba, not underwater. These are self-contained breathing apparatus tanks. These are fireman tanks or, you know, safety people tanks. I don't know. Again, these are on the back, upside down. They go to a mask. The mask has a regulator. But we use them for air guns because they go to 4,500. Now, as far as this extended life, there's a company, he told me, it's called Digital Wave. And what they do is, I don't know the exact specifications, but they can test your tank with some kind of system that they have. And if it's certified, they, you know, for extended life, this can go beyond 15 years. They can actually go down to 30. So I have the website here. It's called Digital Wave Corp. They basically say that they're up to their 3,000 life extended SCBA cylinder on special permit 16320, whatever that means. I guess you get a special permit for it and it gets extended. Life extension meets all manufacturer requirements. We are excited to help firefighters and first responders begin saving $350 million. So this is all part of the US DOT link. They have a link here too. So just some extra news. I was worried that as these get to, you know, I buy used tanks and they have 5, 7, 10 years left. Guess what? They're made so well that if this Digital Wave Corp, if you send it to them, or I'm not sure exactly how it works, but go to digitalwavecorp.com and you can get all the specifications and they can recertify your tank. As long as I think there has to be no visual damage. That's the first thing. Then they'll do their test on it, and if it passes, you get another, I think, 15 years out of it. But check it out, Digital Wave Corp. I think that's all I've got for now.